If your guitar tone isn't absolutely crushing, it's simply not going to cut it in 2026. The tones that metal, metalcore, and deathcore bands are putting out these days are monstrous. And if your tone is lacking in any way, well, that's what's going to make listeners hit the skip button instead of the add button. Now, I've been recording heavy music for over 20 years, and I've dialed in countless guitar tones that sound huge and aggressive. And today, I'm going to show you all the places where most people are making mistakes. And no, the problem isn't the way that you're turning the knobs, and it's probably not your amp sim. It's actually not one problem at all. It's called a signal chain for a reason. One weak link, and everything falls apart. But don't worry, after this video, you'll know exactly how the pros do it. These are the 10 Commandments of Recording Guitar! That was fun. The first commandment, new strings and a pro setup. Fret buzz, bad intonation, incorrect pickup height, get all this stuff sorted out by a professional. And of course, crusty old strings are going to kill your sound. But strings that are just a few weeks old aren't going to have as much tone as a brand new set of strings. And by the way, if you're tracking more than one song, you may need to change strings more than once. A good rule of thumb here, for every 4 to 6 hours that you're playing your guitar, you should change your strings. Now this next one is something that most DIY musicians don't do, but it's crucial, and that's eliminating noise. And I'm not talking about just throwing one of these in your signal chain. There's way more to it than that. The first place that noise can come from is ground loops in your gear. Make sure everything audio related is plugged into one outlet. Then take your lighting and your refrigerator and all the other stuff and plug it into a separate circuit. Now there's another non-musical place that you might get some noise, and it's one of the most annoying ones of all, and that's hi-hat lights. These types of lights emit a radio frequency that interferes with guitar pickups, especially if they're on a dimmer. I once tracked a record from my band at my old house, and I could only play guitar after everyone went to bed, so I could turn all the lights out. And that's what I recommend. Either turn these lights off, or sit in a place in your room where you're not getting any hum from your guitar. Now the next place to eliminate noise is one of the biggest tone killers of all, and that's coming from the unused strings of your guitar. And I'm going to give you a pro tip to eliminate the biggest culprit. More on that in a minute. First, let's tackle the easy ones. There's going to be some faint ringing in the strings above the nut and below the bridge on your guitar. To eliminate these, you want to put some type of dampener in place. Above the nut, you could use a cloth, a sock, or you could get one of those Groove Gear fret wraps. They work great. They're like $13 on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description in case you want to go grab one, because there's more than one use for them. Now, if you have a stop bar tailpiece on your guitar, like in a Flying V or a Les Paul, you're going to want to put some type of dampening between the bridge and the tailpiece as well. Now, this next one is what kills recordings, and that's ringing from unused strings. If you're chugging out a riff, you should dampen the high strings that you're not playing. You can weave a cloth through the strings, or you could use a piece of foam like a cheap earplug. This way you can really dig into your playing and not have to worry about bumping a string and ruining your take. Now, one of the benefits of recording with an engineer is that they can manually mute strings that aren't being played, especially on like intricate riffs where you're skipping strings. You can't do that on your own. And of course, you should use a noise pedal or manually edit out the spots in the track where there's no playing. But more on that later when we talk about editing. And by the way, I've outlined all of this in a free download that I call the Axe Tracking Blueprint. There's a link in the description. If you want it, grab it. It's free. All right, enough about noise. The third commandment is one that not a lot of people know about: cable length. If you're playing with active pickups like EMGs or Fishmans, you could pretty much use whatever good quality cable you have. But if your guitar has passive pickups, you want to use the shortest cable possible. Your signal's going to lose some high end over longer cable runs. So if you're playing with that 20-foot cable that you play on stage, kiss your pick attack goodbye. 6 feet or less on cables for passive pickups, so you could keep every ounce of tone you have. All right, let's talk about actually playing the guitar. And that starts with the piece of gear that connects you to your instrument. Commandment number 4 is your pick. Now there's no hard, fast rule for this. But if you're playing hard, fast music, you need a pick that's thick enough to handle the riff. For me, I like these 1mm jumbo jazz picks. And I'm curious, if you play heavy music, what's your go-to pick? Let me know in the comments below. And I highly recommend experimenting here. Use a couple of different picks, record them, listen back, and use the one that sounds best. Keep in mind though, you should change the pick to support the riff you're playing. You might not want to use the same pick for your open tremolo riff that you're using for your breakdown. And if you're playing leads, you might want something more maneuverable. Now, I've tracked lots of guitar players, and most people want to use the pick that they're comfortable with, which I get. But when I have them try a different pick, they're shocked at how much their tone transforms. So don't be stubborn here. When you're recording, find the right pick for the job. And for the love of God, please hold your pick at a downward angle and pick hard. Now, commandment number 5 is one that I'm sure has affected us all, and that's being out of tune. Obvious as that sounds, there's way more to this than you think. First off, your tuner should always be on, and you should be using the same tuner for every instrument. That includes bass. But it's not just being in tune, it's the way you tune. If you gently hit a note and then tune to where the string arcs, it may read that it's in tune, but think about the riff that you're about to play. We're talking heavy music here. You're probably going to be playing something that's aggressive. So instead, you should be hitting the string when you're tuning, similar to the way that you're going to hit the string when you're recording the riff. Now here's some controversial advice, but hear me out. Don't tune after every take. There may be slight variations every time you tune, and if you tune after every take, you may get this weird chorusy, phasey effect that you don't want. Instead, tune, play a section of the song, and then tune again. And this is a good reason to get your guitar properly set up. If you have a quality axe, it should hold for a few takes. Now, speaking of quality, everything that we've talked about so far will add up to the most important part of your guitar recording. Commandment number 6 is a quality DI. If you've done 1 through 5, you're going to get a great signal going into your computer. But how should you record it? First of all, you should adjust your buffer size to be as low as possible to reduce latency. 128 is what I usually use. Next, turn on pre-fader metering in your DAW, so you can get a reading on what's going into your interface, not what happens after it. Adjust your gain so that your signal is hitting your DAW at about -6 to about -3 dB. This will get you away from the noise floor without running the risk of clipping. But wait a minute, if you're recording guitar with a microphone on a speaker cabinet, should you still record a DI? 100% yes. It's going to take a couple extra steps though. Too many steps for this video. If you want me to do an episode on how to record a DI and an amp tone at the same time with maximum efficiency, let me know. Type split in the comments, I'd be happy to make that video. Alright, good news. You're ready to record. But before we hit that button, let's do this the smart way. You should be tracking in sections, and I'll give you 3 reasons why. The more you play the riff, the more locked in you'll be to the groove, so your timing will be better. You're also less likely to fall out of tune because you're only playing a piece of the song. And maybe most importantly, when you get to the end of the song, you'll be fresh. If you're playing a really difficult song in 1 full take, what are the chances you're going to play the last chorus anywhere near as good as you played the first? Now, once you've recorded each section of your song multiple times, it's time to move on to number 8, and that's comping. This is when you take the best performances from each section and Frankenstein them together. It might even be the best parts of one section that you're cutting together, but there's one mistake that so many people make. Make sure you don't cut off the pick attack. You see this little thing here just before the big transient? That's the pick attack. That's the bite of your guitar tone, and if you cut that off, you're going to lose all the aggression in your performance. Now, if you don't do this next one, you're going to be hated, either by your mixing engineer or your future self. The 9th commandment is consolidate your audio. Leaving segmented regions of audio is a huge mistake. Fade in, fade out, or crossfade your regions. Once all your fades are in place, bounce the track as a new audio file. And before I get to number 10, I just want to say, this is a lot to pay attention to, which is one of the reasons why bands hire me to record them. Tracking yourself sucks. I get it. I never actually had another producer record me. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyway, if you're interested in working with me, there's a link in the description that says work with me. Click it, answer a few questions, and we'll jump on a call to talk about your project. All right, we made it. Commandment number 10, and there's more to this one than you might think, and that's properly labeling your files. You should bounce 24-bit WAV files for all of your performances, and that means your guitar tone tracks as well as your DI tracks. And they need to be properly labeled, and not with things like audio 47. I mean like rhythm left amp and rhythm left DI. It's hard to be creative when you have to spend a ton of time figuring out which file is which. And whether you're doing it or your mixer is, it's going to start the entire session out on a sour note. As for the guitar tone, I break down all the important elements that you need to pay attention to in this video right here. Go check it out. Thanks for watching. See you next week.